Just as a quick reminder, take two is basically a recap of Sunday morning service. It's going to give us a chance to really run through some just practical ways that we can apply Sunday's message. Also, we love to hear your comments, and man, last week, did we see your comments? It was fun. That reel was going. You can ask your questions or leave a comment, either or. This is also a time that we open it up for questions and answers. So that's what we want to see. We want to see those questions and answers and make sure that you have every opportunity to take Sunday's message and turn it into a real life application into your life. And I'm so excited about where this is going. And joining with me this evening as we recap Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through, I believe, 32, is Kyle Stock. He's joining with me. Kyle has been with us for your entire life here at Church Alive,
My
right?
entire life, yes, sir.
You know no other church.
Yes, sir, that's true.
Except he's gone to different camps and conferences.
I have, yes.
Well, yes, you know other churches, of course, obviously. But this has been your home church from birth, and so
yes.
I'm so excited that you're joining with us. We love to have youth on our panel because we know that our young adults, they see life through completely different lenses, and we want to extend that opportunity for every single age to be able to connect with this as well. So I'm so excited that you're joining with us for this. Kyle,
Thank you.
I'll try to not be too brutal on you. I was joking with him before we got on. I said, hey, if I start asking questions why the missing tribe of Dan is not there in the book of Revelation, you better have an answer. By the way, what's the answer to that? I'm playing. He doesn't know what to say. That's great.
Hey, real quick, is it just me? Mine's black. On the... Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, so I think we're still live. Yep, we are live.
Okay.
We just took a little pause right there. And also joining with me is Pastor Sarah. How you doing tonight? Good. Pastor Sarah loves doing these panels. She loves having the discussion and the interaction.
I do, and if I'm not here, I like to do a lot of chat online. So someone can take my place tonight. But real quick, too, I wanted Kyle to say, where do you go to school and what grade are you in?
I go to La Cueva High School. I am in 11th grade.
Woohoo.
Now, Pastor Sarah just wanted to do that because she's a fellow Bear, so I think this is like a Bear shout-out going on here.
Go Bears.
It's fun to know a little fact about people also.
Yep, absolutely. Ron, Grace, welcome aboard, and Ed, so glad to see you on there as well. Once again, you can make your comments, you can ask your questions on the website via the chat on the feed, right there at the homepage, churchaliveabq.com. You can also access it on the Church Alive app, or you can see the feed on YouTube and Facebook. We're monitoring all three, and so excited and ready to answer your questions. But to give a quick recap of what we learned for Sunday, because I know so many people kind of walk out of here after the message, and by the time they get to the car, they have no clue what was talked about. So sometimes we've got to have just a quick recap. And this week's message was on the prodigal son, found at the tail end of Luke chapter 15. This series has been a study. We call this series The One. It's been a study on several parables found in Luke chapter 15. And many people, when they see this portion of Luke 15, they immediately go to the prodigal son. But the reality is there are two sons that Jesus highlights and he brings into question and he makes visible. Obviously, the first one, the younger son, he's the one that ran off. He says, hey, Father, give me your inheritance. And the father has to split his inheritance while he's still alive, which is beyond a slap in the face. And to sell your inheritance, you had to sell your land, which means that it impacted your status in the community, it impacted your estate. And so there's a lot going on there. It's more than just simply hand me over your money.
Yeah, which is great you point out, because for some of us, we don't think about that, or we don't know that.
I know, absolutely. It's hand over your estate, hand over your status in the community, hand over your essential life in so many ways. I think Jesus even uses that word bios, life, as he's talking about this. So the younger brother, he goes out and he squanders it all, and then a famine comes, and he's in the pig pen, and he realizes, man, I think,
This stinks.
yeah, I messed up here.
I'm
You know,
pulling
if
a
I-
Jason dad joke.
If I really think about it, and if I actually go back and maybe if I say the right words to the Father, maybe he'll take me on as a hired man. And there's that reality of what the hired man was. The hired man was he wasn't the slave. He wasn't the one that lived on the campus. He earned a wage. He actually had his own place. So really when he's saying, make me one of your hired men instead of make me one of your slaves, is he's saying, maybe, just maybe, if I say the right words and he hires me on, I can earn my way back. I can make enough money to redeem myself in my own efforts and in my ability and recover what was lost. And so that's what he's sitting in the pig pen doing. He's just sitting there going, maybe if I say the right speech and get this out, maybe that Father will have mercy on me. And then he goes and he finds out, as I'm sure he's rehearsing the whole way back, the Father's been sitting on the horizon just waiting for his younger son. And so here he comes. It's time to meet up the Father. The son starts going, Father, I have sinned against you, against heaven. He's starting his speech, and the Father just shuts him down, says, hey, quick, get the robe, put it on him. Well, whose robe do you think that was? Put on the best robe. That was the Father's robe. So he's clothing him with that robe, and he says, hey, put the ring on his finger, which is a symbol of the family's authority, the family's, it's a symbol of the family's identity in some ways. Mm-hmm. So the Father doesn't even want to hear the rehearsal speech. I'm sure that younger brother had been sitting there for a while, and he doesn't even want to hear it. He's like, quick, put the robe on him.
But he did repent.
Yes.
I have sinned.
Yes.
There was a heart and attitude of repentance.
Right, absolutely. Kill the fattened lamb, the fattened calf. Now that is interesting too, because the fattened calf was that was status. You didn't always eat meat every single meal, and to kill the fattened calf, like that was a special thing. This is beyond just kind of a celebratory moment. This is like a party of parties for the month, for the year, in so many ways, and he's celebrating. So many people we've heard that story. I think most have classically heard it if they've got any familiarity with the Bible. And thank you both for indulging me with a recap of Sunday morning. But then we also have the elder brother. And the elder brother, he comes back from the field, and he's just finding out what's going on, and he's mad. He's like, what's going on? What's this big party? What's going on over there? Well, they killed the fattened calf, and they put a robe on your younger son, or your younger brother, and they put a ring on his finger, and now the older brother, he's hot. He's mad not only at the younger brother, but he's also mad at the father. And the father, once again, he humbles himself. He comes out to the elder brother now, humiliating himself in front of the community once again. Humiliating, that's just not something a father does. The father had already humiliated himself in many ways with breaking down of his status so that the younger son could go squander, but then running to the younger son while he's waiting. And, that was a status symbol as well. So the father has really, in so many ways, he's humbled himself many times, and now he's with the elder brother, and the elder brother's like, look! He doesn't even say, hey, that younger, he doesn't even say, hi, Father, nothing. It's just like, look, I've been with you this whole time, and you didn't even give me a goat to celebrate with my friends. But you killed this fattened calf for this son of yours. He doesn't even say my brother. He doesn't even say your son. He says this son of yours. And so, and then the father comes back and is like, hey, we had to celebrate. My son was lost, but now he's fine. He was dead, and now he's made alive. It's time to celebrate. But the elder brother isn't about that. He doesn't want that. And what that is, all he's thinking about is the cost. All he's thinking about is how much he's losing in this moment, losing in this inheritance. But really, even all along, while he's still staying home and obeying, he's missed the Father's heart altogether. He's demonstrating, especially in this moment, that he doesn't have a love for the Father. He's demonstrating that he doesn't have a heart for the Father. He's just after the Father's things, which is just as dangerous as the younger son. And I compared and contrasted quite a bit during that message. But we find out that the elder brother, there's no indication that the elder brother ever went into that feast. And so that's a quick recap of this Sunday morning service for those of you who missed it. And now it's time for some discussion and thoughts. I'm going to go this way with Kyle. I'm picking on her a little bit. Mm-hmm. Kyle, as you recap the message, as you listened to it, maybe you went back and rewound it just a little bit. What were some things that jumped out to you? What were some things that really kind of stood out and impressed you? Or maybe I could also say, this is maybe a twofold question. As you're thinking through the younger generation, what do you think are the questions that they may be asking as well?
Okay, yeah. So what really stuck out to me was that no matter like how far we go, like through a tunnel, no matter like how dark the tunnel is or like how dark our life is, God is always going to be sitting there with open arms. He's always going to accept us no matter how far we go. He's not going to sit there at the end of the tunnel and wait for us to go. He's going to come to us, but we also have to go to him too. It's got to be both ways. That is definitely the biggest thing I got from the message on Sunday.
That's awesome.
What about you, P. Sarah?
Well, one thing Grace said that I thought was cool too is how we find in verse 30, the older brother tried to separate himself from his younger brother by saying, "This son of yours," while the father attempted to bring unity by saying, "This brother of yours." And I think that's such a good point. I think for me, one of the things that has stood out many times in this story is the father coming back with the older brother saying, "Everything I have is yours." And what are we missing that God has? Because we aren't asking. So that made me, I was proud of Kyle. He has his real Bible. I have my real Bible and my fake Bible. I'm just kidding. I like my Bible on my iPhone too. But I think both are important. But I love looking up like quick references. So you have not because you ask not, or if you ask. So that's one of the things I was looking for in Matthew 7. It says, "If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask?" And I just think that's so powerful. I think sometimes we get in this working for God instead of with God, instead of that relationship. And I've seen that even with myself sometimes. I've gotten a lot freer asking my dad for things sometimes. Like, "Hey, Dad." He's all, "Sure." I'm like, gosh, I should have started this a long time ago.
Have you asked for the young goat?
I haven't asked for no fatted calf yet. But I mean, what was it? He took Bailey to get whatever, Dubai chocolate. I don't know. That might be the fatted calf these days, because I was like, that was how much money? Anyway. But just coming back to, that's the Father's heart. The other one I was looking up is in James. And this one's a little bit of a can of worms, which I don't think we're going to go all over there right now. But in James 4:2, it says, "You desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask." And this is kind of going back and forth, like, is what you want all about yourself. And so for this Sunday, the thing that really hit me is both of them at one moment or another, it was all about themselves. And ultimately, I think that's the thing to ask ourselves. Even being in the kingdom of God, the family of God, Is it all about me or is it about him? And so I think that's where we want to keep our heart right. Seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added. His heart is for you to be blessed, for your life to abound. But that's where we keep ourselves in check. Are we about the things or him and his kingdom? And then he'll bring the things and the blessings. And that's where you see this battle, like, what did he get? I didn't. And we see that in human nature too. Even with my kids, sometimes I'm like, sometimes you're going to have more chores than your sister because she's in soccer right now, and vice versa. You know what I mean? There's certain part of us that it's like, that's not fair. And we have to keep our attitude right and fix ourselves sometimes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Ed, you shared it all starts with repentance, and only one son did it. Yeah, very good point. Excellent point, Ed. Eva said, it made me wonder, how was the relationship between the brothers before the younger brother left home? I think that is an excellent question, Eva. Was there jealousy? Was there the older brother broken that his younger brother left? Great hypotheticals. You know, I think on top of Eva's points too, I always had a heart for the father. I'm like, is anyone going to give him a little bit of love, a little bit of respect? I mean, I think both of these brothers should have given the father, obviously, a little bit more respect. But, you know, it was really hitting me at the end of the message because I shared this, that the world doesn't need more Christians. And I'm sure that was probably a little bit surprising for some people because, you know, on the surface you go, wait, the world doesn't need any more Christians. No, the world needs more lovers of God. And they need lovers of his heart. You know, the very first commandment, love your God with all of your heart and all of your soul and all of your mind. I come back to that scripture because that was the first command. Like, that is something that God asks of us. Love your God with all of your heart and all of your soul and all of your mind. And if you're not doing that, well, you quickly run down to that elder brother type mindset. Because I tell you, if you're not having that communion, if you're not having that relationship time, I'm sure you know this, Kyle, because you work in the back quite a bit on Sunday.
Yeah.
You're very active with those kids. If you don't have that prayer time, if you don't have that communion time with the Lord, you know, the things that you do back there, the things that we all do, man, they quickly just become task-oriented. They become works. I think I lost my volume there. Am I good? Can you hear me? I think. Okay. Checking 1, 2. If anyone's online, can you give me a quick shout out and let me know if you hear me or not, just to make sure?
Just keep going for
Yep.
now.
So I'm going to just keep going, but lost my point in that for sure. Yep, now I hear it. Okay, I think we're back. I think we're good. What was I saying?
Kids in the back.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
She's right there for me. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, so quickly, it doesn't matter what we do. We start doing things out of obligation. We start doing things out of necessity. We start doing things out of need, out of demand. And how quickly can we lose sight that we're doing things unto the Lord? And, you know, it's so easy to do. You do this over a long period of time. You develop that soot kind of over the heart. And then it can really shatter your mindset. It can really tarnish how you view things, how you view your love for the church, your love for him. You have any thoughts on that, Kyle?
Definitely. So the big thing is like social media. You know, you follow all these people who always live these like great lives, and they have everything they want. And
Or so we think.
Exactly. But as you're looking at it, your thoughts are you want it. And especially as like a young kid, a young like Gen Z, there's a lot of things you want.
Yeah.
And I feel like doing it all for God could be a little hard at times.
Yeah.
Because you can have a friend who has this and you want it, or like you just know people who are doing all these things, and then you go and do it, and you don't feel like the same, I guess, like love you would if you did it underneath God.
Yeah.
Like if you did it for him.
Sure.
Well,
Absolutely.
even in James, and that's a good one if you guys want to study deeper, James 4, that whole chapter is talking about that. And I think that's so true. And some of the attitude with this comes back to, like, what's in it for me and what did I miss out? And I did this and he didn't. And you know what I mean? Like, you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. Like, the heart and attitude is the slave mentality. And even Sunday, I feel by the Spirit, which I didn't even know the details all Jason was getting into. But the song talked about, I am a friend of God. There's a difference between being loved by God and loving God. And being a friend of God is us obeying him and loving him. And then he says, I no longer call you slaves or servants, but friends. So that's God's heart, to have this friendship and this relationship. And then when we're asking, we're not just asking for our own self in some ways, but even in that, I think he's okay with some of that, if our heart is right. But I think all of us deal with that.
Yeah.
Grown-ups alike. Like, we see certain things, and that's why we have to be careful, too, the noise in our life, or how much we're seeing that or being consumed by that. Are we, like, seeking him, focused on him, or is it like, I want that date so-and-so had?
Yeah. She keeps
Secret
putting up
plug.
dates. She keeps putting up dates. I know where you're going with that. Somebody wants a date. You know, the other thing, too, about social media is generally people will put their best foot forward. So, you know, they're not going to tell you that, well, it's kind of changing as of late. You know, I've started to see, well, my husband did this, my husband did that. That's a whole dangerous thing in itself. But it used to be, in the classic sense, people would generally put their best foot forward, right?
Sorry, everyone.
They'd put their best foot forward. They would you know, present something to the world that was fake.
Exactly.
Or it was the best of a sliver of their moment. But you see that slide reel after slide reel after slide reel after slide reel, and then all you see is the best of all this world, and then what do you have left? You have you looking at your life going, well, my life isn't that. My life isn't trip to Hawaii. My life isn't this. My life isn't that. And then you start comparing apples to oranges in some ways, and then it leaves you in this place and you feeling insignificant. And then, you know, that compounds, especially in those times where you're doing things unto the Lord, and it's just like, is this getting me anywhere? But it is, but you just don't see it and you don't realize it. And I think that's a great point, Kyle, for sure. Grace, thank you for the input on the I can still hear you. Hopefully that screech wasn't too loud on the screen. Lisa, I think we have no questions? Okay, awesome.
And
Cool.
if you guys do in the house, we have that wonderful mic in the center for you to go to.
Yep, and yes, Mike, go for it. Don't forget, you can always throw in your questions or comments. We'll be happy to see them and grab them for you.
Well, you painted such a vivid picture that I hadn't seen. I saw things in the scriptures I hadn't seen before, and I began to think about the Father and what heartache he must have had, first with the Son, you know, doing that to him, and then all the ramifications within his family and within his culture. And then it struck me that the love completely overcame all that heartache. And that reminded me of the power of God's love, the most powerful thing that there is.
Right.
And how it's been said over and over, but it really bears repeating that that the joy of the Lord just overcomes everything, so it's not dependent upon external, circumstances,
Yeah.
I just thought that was pretty fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and you see that love, him restoring his son completely back. And that's where we have to ask ourselves for more of his love, so we have that same heart and attitude. Because unfortunately, too many times, we want them to still pay a certain price for what they did or didn't do. And then it's also interesting in verse, 31, I think. My son, the father said, you are always with me, to the older son. But was he really always with him? Or was he just doing stuff for him to get what he wanted, to earn what was his, in a sense? And the father goes on to say, everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate. And I think Eva mentioned, and I think in our questions, what's our heart and attitude in celebrating others?
Yeah.
And why can or can't we do that?
Yeah, celebration is a big thing, and it's a big factor in this. You see that in the parable time and time again. You see that in the parable of the sheep. You see it in the parable of the coin, which hopefully we get to next week. Kind of jumped over that. I'll look to come back to it next week. But certainly, you see this celebration. Jesus said over and over that the angels in heaven celebrate. There is a celebration when one comes home. And, if God's celebrating, if the angels are celebrating, we do have to have that mindset of celebrating as well. And, I think one thing that hit me that, obviously in these parables, Jesus knows who he's addressing. He's seeing the tax collectors and the sinners. They're leaning in. They're at the dinner table with them. But then Jesus is also very much aware that the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they're up there and they're just in a place of judgment. They're in a place of criticism. How dare Jesus have a meal? How dare Jesus come into, in some ways, almost covenant, fellowship with the tax collector, with the sinner? I mean, think about the reality of that. A tax collector during that time was essentially a traitor, loyal to the Roman state and a traitor to their own, community. They were despised. They were looked down on. And so here's Jesus having a meal with them. So you could see the logistics of that. It's, in some ways, I could see the natural part of it. But that's what Jesus is addressing in some ways. And he knows who his audience is. There's two audiences there. But I was thinking about this, and this is the one thing that jumps out. It's the one thing that Jesus didn't share is he's really talking about the kingdom of heaven. He's talking about the Father's inheritance to us as sons as well. We forget that and we miss that. That brother may not have ever needed to even remotely get that third of the estate to go squander. The inheritance or the wealth could have been extremely vast. And so I was just kind of thinking the dynamics of that, because when we think about the kingdom of heaven, when we look at the promises that have been established in the Bible for us to walk in and for us to walk out, when we look at the names of God, he is our Jehovah Nissi, he's our banner, he's our strength, he's our Jehovah Jireh, he's our provider. You can go right down the list of several names of God, of just his character. But in addition to that, his promises. And the kingdom of heaven is so vast, and we forget about that Jesus doesn't even acknowledge that, but he's talking about his Father's kingdom, essentially. And, if you compare that to the Father's kingdom, he might not have even needed to pull off a third of his estate to go squander, because it was so vast. Anyway, I'm rambling with that thought, but it just kind of ties in a little bit for sure. But
here's another word that stood out to me is, and this is still the older brother. Sorry, I have a lot to say about him, apparently. But when he said to the father, look, all these years I have been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Have you guys learned you are never supposed to say never or always? But we say that a lot in certain circumstances. You always say that, or you never do this.
Yeah, those absolutes, right? Kyle, when you see this parable, what do you see as far as home? You know, that younger brother, he comes home.
Yeah.
And that home, in a sense, is a relationship with God. It's not just a place. So we see that, and then we also see this this elder brother mentality too, and we've got to guard against that. Both are alienated from God. Both are hostile because they don't care about the Father's heart. But you mentioned earlier, you know, we can develop that elder brother mentality pretty quick. What are some things that you could think of maybe that can help guard our hearts as we walk this out to prevent just getting in that elder brother mindset?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the people you hang out with really has a big part in it. If you're not hanging out with like godly like people, you're not gonna have that guard really, because you're gonna want to do what they want to do. They want to go out and party. You're gonna want to go out and party with them. But if you get the right friends who are godly people, you're definitely gonna have a stronger guard. You're gonna have that stronger elder brother mentality.
Yeah, that's good. Absolutely. You know, what does it say? Bad company corrupts good character, right?
Yes.
You know,
I was gonna
they have a
look
way
for
of
it.
tainting that. Yes, sir.
It seems like there's a third responsible party here, the father. The history of the father who has tolerated the younger son becoming spoiled and then allowing him and rewarding that spoiled behavior by giving him everything that he wanted, a third of his total lands to go off and party.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like appropriate parental discipline and parental supervision.
Yeah. I think it's a fantastic point, Ron. That is an excellent point, because in some ways I would look at if my son came to me and said, hey, I want my inheritance a little bit early. You know, there's probably a place where they'd be like, heck no, you know, you're going to wait.
But I think that also goes to show free will, and at a certain point in time, you make those choices, and God gives you freedom with some of that.
Yeah. But I think in a general sense, I would recognize for sure just a character in a normal day-to-day life that wouldn't be healthy parameters for a father, no doubt. And I think you bring out an excellent point. I would say this, though, keep in mind it is a parable, and Jesus is trying to highlight extremes in those moments to bring out a particular point. He's trying to highlight the love of the Father. But even in that, the character displayed still doesn't have those parameters that in some ways are healthy. So I think it's a fantastic point that you brought out, and it is something that has always sat in my head and sat in my heart and sat in my thoughts and thinking for sure. It's certainly not how I would play it out. Now, if my son was a prodigal, I have no doubt I'd be sitting on that hill waiting for my son, waiting for my daughter to come home, no doubt. I don't think I'd be giving up my inheritance a little bit early. You know.
That does kind of make me laugh that you're acting like he's just sitting there. I mean, I'm sure he's doing stuff too, but
Yeah.
he has his eye out.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent point, Ron. I don't know necessarily where to take that for sure. It'd be a great question to put on that shelf when you see Jesus face to face. I've got a lot of questions like that. I'm like, okay, how did this play out? That would certainly be one of them. Has there ever been, let me ask a question to both of you.
You know, can I have that other paper? Keep going.
Has there ever been a time where you've known or you've noticed, maybe you've tried to earn God's favor instead of just receiving his love? Because really that's a big part of this, is the receiving of his love. And the elder brother is trying to, well, actually both of them, because when the younger brother comes home, what is he trying to do? What's in his head? Hey, maybe I can be like his hired man and earn my way back. So both of them actually had that earn component to their lives. Have you, as you reflect on your life, are there times where you can kind of catch and notice, well, I've earned this, Lord, therefore you owe me? Anything jump out to you, either one of you, with that thought?
Yeah, I think so, and you get resentful. It's like that's a time you need to check your heart. And even where it talks about the older brother becoming angry and refusing to go in, it's like this is a sign, Lord, help me. Like, what's going on? What do I need to work through? And even just doing ministry a long time, there's been times it's like, I don't know if I want to do this. This is a lot. And there's things you sacrifice and lay down. So having to come back again, like, Lord, what is this about? But I think that's the other part. If you get in works mode for works mode and you don't have that connection with the Father and the lifeline and the flow of life, it sucks the life.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Big time. Absolutely. Did you have any thoughts, or should we move on?
Move on.
Move on. Okay. Ryan, you got a question. Go for it.
Yes. So just in mind of like the heart of the youth and everything, whenever the Father's talking about like everything I had was yours, in CAU we're going through authority. We're going to be talking about authority this week, and that's just something that like I feel like so much of this next generation is looked down upon by the older generation. Well, you're young, but the Bible says not to look down upon yourself because you're younger, because you still have that authority that Christ has given you. So I was just hoping that you could touch on authority real quick.
On the authority, guide me through a little bit in relation, give me a little bit of clarity in relation to that authority in relation to...
Yeah, absolutely. So just like, the Father said to the Son, everything that I had was yours. But the Son, the older son, at least the way that it looks in the parable, didn't touch anything.
Yeah.
And so Jesus, in the same way, right, he says that all authority has been given to me, therefore go and make disciples of all nations.
Yeah.
So he's delegating that authority unto us. And I think so much of what stops the younger generation from taking that authority is just, well, I'm too young to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or not knowing that you have it. I think that's probably the bigger thing that you're saying, is the elder brother all along, he has no clue that he has that authority, that he could just go grab a young goat and celebrate with his friends. He had no clue that he had that ability. I think that is a very big factor in this and often overlooked, and I think that's a great probably insight than anything else, is we do have that authority. And how many times do we miss that? How many times do we forget that? And, I think going back to the younger generation that you're talking about, here's the thing that I think is going to surprise you, especially with the Gen Z and the Gen Alphas. They're going to have something, I truly believe this. Now, all of us have these cycles of having to mature and learn and grow. That's just phase of life. So there's a maturing, but there's a wisdom that this generation, I think in some ways is going to lead the older, because they're going to see things through different lenses. They're not going to tolerate the fluff. They're not going to tolerate the gray. And the older has tolerated the gray. They've tolerated kind of, yeah, I see the black, I see the white, and let's kind of mix it together and call it good. This generation, right? They want something real.
Yes.
And, they want it straight, which gives you a tremendous amount of power and potential that I think in many ways is going to lead the older generation. Maybe a little bit of a side note of what you're kind of sharing with that, Ryan. But it is so important because neither the older brother or the younger brother really demonstrated that all I have is already mine. I don't need to go to these extreme measures. I don't need to earn it. I have it. I've received it by faith, and it's an excellent point.
Enjoying that relationship and what has been provided and given to you. It makes me think of the verse 2, all things are possible to those who believe. And we see throughout Jesus' life, the people who believed, I will touch the hem of his garment and be healed, was. So many things we limit ourselves, just like we see in this parable. The younger son limited himself in what he had also, that he needed to take what he had and go do other things because he was missing out or whatever. The older brother missed out on certain things because he didn't ask or enjoy what he had where he was.
Yep, absolutely. Ron, did you have a question or comment?
So when we look at the father's role, and we see that there's some parental lack, I think this also demonstrates the point that God does things on his own time. He is very disciplined, and he doesn't make that a mistake of giving everything to the person exactly when they want it, giving him a third of the inheritance to go off and play. But we know that what we ask for, God will give us, but on his time schedule, not when we want it.
But he gave it to him on his time schedule.
And so he's demonstrating that this was a fault in the father's.
But I don't know. I mean, that's what the parable's saying, though.
Well, but Ron does have a great point. You look at James, and it says, you pray, but you ask amiss. So you're not praying in alignment of God's will, and I think that's the root of what Ron is saying, that, sometimes we're missing in our prayer time and in our focus time.
And we also are asking for things that he will give us in his time, not immediate gratification, which
Sure.
is what the younger son asked for and got. But we have to pass the test to show that we are, in faith, we will believe that it is coming, even when it seems that it's taking longer than we would prefer.
Yeah, I got you. I think that's a great point, Ron. Absolutely. Thank you for the input on both of those. It is fascinating. It is a fascinating study with the character of the Father, for sure. And that does stand out and always has stood out to me. One last question as we kind of wrap up. Moderator, do we have anything on Facebook that we haven't answered, or YouTube? Okay. You have a comment, okay.
I have to take my eyes off to see. We have a comment from Aaliyah, and she says, "So proud of you, Kyle."
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that our beloved Aaliyah out in Tulsa? Aw, we love you, Aaliyah. Hey, we hope you're running passionate out there.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for checking in with us. We absolutely love you. Hope you're doing well. Hey, hurry back to us because we kind of miss you around here, for sure. Let me wrap up with one last question. What does it look like for you personally to pursue God's heart rather than just his estate? Because we can quickly do that. We can quickly just be focused on his promises. We can be focused on his character. We can be focused on God's things. Certainly we've seen times, even in the last few decades, where there was a focus on things rather than the promises in some ways. So we can obviously get carried off into the material or things that just don't have the eternal focus to it. But what does it look like for you to personally pursue God's heart? To stop and go, God, I love you. I'm passionately after your heart. I love you. I want that relationship with you. And if that's the only thing that you gave your life to establish for me to be able to walk in, that's good enough. You know what I mean? I guess that's kind of the root of the question. Is there, what does that look like for you personally? Just kind of thinking through that a little bit.
Well,
Should I give you a minute? I can turn to the right if you need a minute.
yeah.
Okay. I'll let him kind of think through some things.
Well, I think one thing we were talking about even just recently at CAU is just the dichotomy in life sometimes. So it's so interesting. Like, I don't think we should sell ourselves short in not asking or believing for certain things, you know? But then at the same time, that shouldn't be the consuming, you know? So I think just coming back to him and loving him and being about his business and his kingdom. And yeah, you have those things you're thanking him for and you're believing for. But I think sometimes we can swing from like one side to the other where it's like, okay, well then I don't need anything and I shouldn't want anything. And, you know,
Yeah.
but then we see examples of people wanting things or asking for things or believing for healing and, you know, so.
Absolutely. I think for me, maybe just recognizing my life is not my own. And that's, I think, probably the big thing. And you've heard me say it over and over again. So much of Western culture, it is self-help. It's better you. It's, you know, it's not a co-crucifixion in Christ. And that is something that is so important to understand, that your life is not your own. You are crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, you live. But the life that you live is Christ, who loved you and gave his life for you. You know, I think there is something about having that constant reminder that Jason Kimberly is dead. You know, what you see is Christ that died for me, that gave his life for me, and yes, I still live, but that old man is dead. You know, the new man is Christ in me, the hope of glory. And so I think having that constant reminder that we're living sacrifices, you know, if you think about that word sacrifice back in the Old Testament, you know, if you were a ram or a bull or a sheep or a pigeon, you know, you could be a sacrifice, but you could only do it once, you know. You couldn't rebuild yourself to be constantly a living sacrifice.
Yep.
And so there is a cognitive laying down.
Crawl off the altar.
Yeah, we love to crawl off the altar quite a bit. There's a constant reminder that we have to lay down our lives, that our lives are not our own, that we are co-crucified in him. Nevertheless, we live, but it's not our life. And that puts us in that position of being at the right hand of the Father in heavenly places, far above principalities and powers and rulers. And now I'm rambling a little bit, but it's so important to understand that your life is not your own. And I think once you get that settled in your heart and settled in your mindset, it does make a lot easier to function without that elder brother mentality. But I want to give you a little bit of space, Kyle. What are some thoughts that jump out at you?
Definitely putting just like your trust in him.
Yeah.
Putting your trust in him, I feel like, is a really big thing, especially for younger people. I mean, a lot of us kind of think that God's not going to be able to do it, because I have the thoughts at times where it's like, I think God's not going to be able to do this, so like, could I do it? Or sometimes we just think we don't need God to do it, or we don't need him to do it. We could just do it on our own. So definitely, I feel like putting your trust in him is just a way to kind of just like feel that better connection with him, at least for me personally.
Yeah.
And there's even times where I just need to just like, I stop during my day and it's just kind of like, I need you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of about it.
I think that's excellent.
Well, and that makes me think of Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, one of my favorite verses. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And I mean, I think that ties in with all of this. We're trusting him. We're not trying to take it into our own hands like we see both the brothers do in different ways. But there's a trust. He knows best. His timing's best. His will is best.
Yep, absolutely. Well, as we wrap up, Ed, Andrea, Michael, Grace, Derek, Aaliyah, thank you all for jumping on, being a part. Always feel free to send out your questions and answers at any time. Kyle, thank you for being part of the panel. Pastor Sarah, thank you for being part of this panel. Moderators, Lisa and Sid, thank you for moderating for us. And then Ron and Ryan, thank you for your comments. And Michael, thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Especially enjoyed the authority. I think that was a very insightful thing that Ryan shared on that. Wonderful conversation. Hopefully you can take Sunday's message and then tonight's thoughts and really take that in your heart. Let it stir, let it marinate, and apply it in a way that brings life to people around you, life to yourself. Feel free to join with us on this upcoming Sunday. I'm going to go back and share on the parable that we kind of left out in the middle of this series. I've got one last